I had a very good day today. So I did go to Chessington in the end. I was not feeling tired, so I went. But yeah, the journey was a nightmare because I got on. It said that the train to have you to get is two trains that are half an hour, and it said that the first train was like 5 minutes away. So I quickly went down to the platform, tapped my Oyster card in, and it turned out that it wasn't the Clapham Junction train; it was the Richmond train. So all the data on the main screen was wrong, which is the second time that's happened this week, or so it happened a few weeks ago. That same thing when I went to Kew Gardens, that same thing happened. But anyway, and then I waited. Well, I waited. The train afterwards was like another 15 minutes, and then that ended up being cancelled. And then the next one was basically like half an hour. So there was a half an hour wait for the first train. I did go to Richmond and then went round, but that actually turned out to be a lot longer. I went a different way, and anyway, it was a lot longer, but it was probably actually maybe the same time. But anyway, and then when I got to the Clapham Junction, um, a similar thing happened. The Chessington train was supposed to go every half an hour, but it wasn't. It was going every hour, and I ended up having like a 45-minute wait for that one. And yeah, with the Oyster cards, it gives you 2 hours. You have to tap in and tap out within the 2 hours, and if you tap in longer than that, if the wait between the times is longer than 2 hours, it counts it as two untapped journeys. So instead of being charged £5, I got charged like £14 or something like that. So it's really annoying, and that is not the first time I've happened. I've been a Merlin. I've got these Merlin passes and gotten free to all these rides, these places, these theme parks. Quite a few years. Definitely when I was 12, that was the first time I became a member. And I think I also did it when I was like 14, 16, 18, and maybe even 20, 23 or 24. I don't know. I've done it quite a few times, and yeah, every time I go to Chessington, like not every time, but every other time I go to Chessington, I find a similar thing happens. The Chessington train usually gets delayed or cancelled, and I can never tap in and out within the 2 hours. And it's yeah, it's a really stressful journey considering how long it is. But anyway, the Chessington was great, but yeah, I didn't get there till like 1 o'clock, so really late. But I don't actually enjoy the rides any longer. I feel like I'm at the age now where I can't enjoy the rides because I just start feeling sick or tired. Like I don't know if I'm getting this way because I'm older now, or if I'm getting this way because of something spiritual that I'm going through. Maybe that's the cause, but I just don't know. But yeah, I love these places. I love Chessington because um, it kind of gave me like a real purpose, a real reason to live when I was a child. Because you could go to these places, they're full of happy people screaming all the time, and they just seem so full of life. But that's just not how it is any longer. These places. I remember when I used to go, the queues it always used to be about 20 minutes to 40 minutes, and I would always be really annoyed at the 40-minute queues. So I'd always try and only go to a ride if it's 20 minutes. And usually at the end of the day, that there was always like you could always get on. I always know though that when it first opens, it closes for the winter, but it opens in March. If you go in the first 2 weeks, there's basically no one there, and the whole park is basically yours to yourself. So I always made a point of taking off of being ill from school in those first 2 weeks, and going to these places. But yeah, I feel sorry for children now actually because I had so much fun going to these places. But now the queues are like just so ridiculously long. Like the average queue for one of these big rides is like an hour, and and if you're only there for like 4 hours, or or if you're maybe there for 6 hours, you're supposed to usually get there around 10, 11. But yeah, if you only get on like one of these like every hour or something, then you're only going to get on about six rides all day, and I just don't see how people can be happy. Just if I've just been standing in a queue for over an hour, I'll just be feeling miserable. I hate waiting. I hate just the anxiety of just being like, oh, I want to do something else. Oh, I want to get out of here. Oh, why am I in this queue? Oh, I've been in this queue for half an hour. I can't leave now. I'm sure we get to the front soon. And then you just go around another corner and oh, there's more and more. I absolutely hate it. And I kind of stopped. I think by the time I was like, the last time I became a member, I think I was probably 20 or something, but I kind of I didn't want to go any longer because it was just awful, the queuing time. And I feel sorry for younger kids because they won't have that same experience that I had when I was a kid, of just being like, wow, a 10-minute queue. And when it started getting busier, I also noticed that a lot of the seats would be kind of empty, and I'd always go to where the fast track ticket queuing is and be like, hey, I'm a single person, look, there's a seat there, can I just like, can I squeeze onto that? And they would usually say yes. And then after me doing that for a couple of years, they actually had single rider queues. So it's almost like I started a trend. I started doing it, and then I think everyone else started, a lot of people started noticing that I was doing it, and then they started copying it too. I kind of I don't know if it was me, but it does, I feel like I did set a trend about the about that. But now you can't do it. There's I did about 3-4 rides, and yeah, at the very end the queues were far less. So I did the laser one, which is my favorite, I think. And there was no queue at all to that, but that was only in the last half an hour. And then there was the rackety one, which I spent about 20 minutes in a queue for. And then I got to the front realizing that there's like, each train has like 4 people in, but they're only filling it in twos. And there was even a group of 4 people, but they both got front seats because none of them wanted to sit on the back. I'm just like, we've just been standing in a queue for 20 minutes and you're half filling these. If I was working there, I would be 100% making sure that every seat is full, because I know how awkward, how horrible it is just to stand in a queue for such a long time just to get to the front and realize that you're half filling the trains each time they come past. It's really annoying, and I don't think the people working there know how annoying it is to be in a queue for over an hour just to find out that there was actually a way of making it far less of a wait. But yeah, these things stress me out, and but right now I'm at the stage where I'm too old for rides, and I end up feeling sick, so it's probably best. But I went to go on to see like how much the fast tracks are. They're like £8. I mean, this is supposed to be a park for 12s to 18s mostly. Who is going to pay £8 for a ride, especially if you've just paid £50? If you've paid £40 to get into the park, and £20 or £10 on transport to get there, you're not going to, and £10 on food and a couple of drinks and stuff, you're not going to want to also spend £8 just to get on one ride. So I feel like the fast pass tickets system just isn't working because it's not available enough, and the kids who are buying this, their parents aren't going to want to be giving them extra money on top of, they're getting, to get in, they'll have to probably go to their parents to get the money or to buy the membership. And I don't think the parents are really going to want to spend £8 for their 15-year-old to do a single journey just to save a queue. And I just feel like the whole system isn't working. And then they had these reserve ones where you can pay £85, or you can get £85 and you can get unlimited fast track, which is okay. But how many 16, 17-year-olds, how many 12-year-olds are going to be spending £85 for one day on top of the membership fee? And then they have these reserved ones, which is like 45, where you can book online, and however long it says that the queue is, it will half it, and you can go in after that time, which I guess is a good idea, but it's £45. That's quite a lot of money, And then there's one which just makes you wait a whole hour or something. So if it says it's an hour queue, you can press it and wait, come back an hour later, and you can get a fast pass then. But that's still 25. And I just think this system isn't working. But I've got a better idea of what would work, which is you can have your discovery pass, which is your off-peak discovery pass, which is about £100, and you can enter the park and enter all these places off-peak. And then you can have a full-time membership where you pay like 170, 180, and you can enter whenever you want, weekends and holidays. But when it comes to these big rides, I think there should be a ticketing system where you can, they have like a point system of how many. So say it's 50p a point, you have to put on like £10 worth of points, or £5, you can put on however much you want in points. And then whenever you come to the ride, it tells you at the front of the train how much, what you have to pay extra to get onto this ride. And I bet there's the number of, if there's 200 people in a queue, if you made them pay like a pound or two to kind of keep the queue small, basically, I bet there would be a lot of people that would be willing to pay a pound or two just to have, instead of having an hour wait, have half an hour wait. There'll be a lot of people willing to pay that. But the number of people that will be willing to pay £8 to avoid the queue, I just think is so few. And therefore, I feel like you're just losing out on a huge potential of money that could be made. If 200 people in a queue, or say let's say 100 people, if 100 people in a queue are willing to pay a pound to be in a queue for 100 people rather than be in a queue for 200 people, well, you've just made £100. But out of those 200 people, how many of them are going to pay £8 to go on that ride free? Probably maybe one or two. And so I think you could make so much more money if you did have a ticket system. And you could do it in a way where if the queue is very, very low, then then the ticket, the number of tokens that, or number of points that it costs to get on it, will be low. So you have to start. I guess you would have to start off at a high at the beginning. You'd have to start off high at the beginning, maybe 2 points, which is a pound, or 4 points if it's a larger ride. And then as the day gets on, once it gets past like 3-4 o'clock, then you can start like lowering the points. So I think it would be annoying if it says 2 points, which is a pound, and then you get to the front and it's gone up to £1, and gone up to more than that, like £2, and you can't really go up unless, of course, you say that in the first hour, all the points, it's lower, and then after you get to like 11 o'clock, then suddenly it goes up to you could say that between this and that time, it's going to be this amount of points, and in the first hour it's going to be this amount of points, and then after 3 o'clock you can judge it by how many people. That you need to have a way, basically, of keeping these queues low, because you can't enjoy going to these places if the queue is an hour long. And I feel like it's a shame, because I have so many really good memories of going to these places, and just being able to enjoy the rides, and just seeing everyone being so happy. Whereas now I didn't get that vibe. I got the vibe. I felt a frustration. You see all these rides that you want to go on, and then you just see the wait time, an hour, an hour, an hour, an hour. I've just come 2 hours on a train to come here, and what, you're going to make me wait in another queue for an hour? It's just, and it's expensive, but I don't mind paying a little bit more to get on these rides. But I don't want to have to pay £8 more to get on a ride. I mean, if you still want to do the fast pass idea, you can. But I just think just giving people a ticket with like some sort of code on it, and then you scan it, and it just charges a pound every time you go on a ride. I think that's just such a better idea, because then hopefully the queue time would be far less than what it is. And yeah, I understand you would want to have like cheap memberships to get people in, to get them buying food, to get them doing all that, and you can do that. But yeah, you have to also be able to get on the rides, and you don't want to pay £8, and you don't want to wait an hour, and so finding a better way. There's better ways of doing that. That's how I would do it if it was mine. But yeah. What else? So I was actually very impressed with the zoo. I felt the animals looked very happy, and I love going to zoos, but it's the best kind of zoo is where the animals look happy, and they definitely. Not so much the mooses. The mooses look quite miserable, but all the other ones looked really happy. And I was kind of thinking how a lot of people complain about zoos because it's keeping animals in cages. But then I was kind of just thinking, like, you keep serial killers in prison because they're a danger to people. Now, technically, tigers, lions, and a lot of these creatures would actually be a danger to people if they were living amongst humans, and you can put them in the wild where people aren't around, but at the same time they'll be a danger to other people, other animals, or other animals will be a danger to them, and they might just end up on someone's plate. And therefore it might be a bit boring being in a zoo, but it's actually quite a safe place, and they have a much healthier, longer lifestyle. I think as long as you're looking after them well, you should give them, I guess, human rights. Like, if you have prisoners in a cell, I'm sure they'll be happier being free. But they'll probably cause a lot of problems. But as long as you keep them, give them basic food and medication, and basic health, and a bit of respect, I feel like zoos are quite nice, and you should treat animals as if they are just criminals. You could say that they're innocent, but they're not. If a soul was innocent or more humane, it would be in a human body. It wouldn't be in an animal body. The fact that an animal, the soul, is in an animal body, it means that either the soul isn't very developed, hence is more animalistic and more dangerous than a developed human soul. But yeah, I was having all these conversations in my head about why it's okay to keep animals in cages, providing they're happy. I've seen some bad ones where you just see animals just being miserable and stuff. I don't agree with that. Um, and likewise, if prisoners are being locked in isolation for no real reason, and they look all horrible, all miserable, that's just as bad as a horrible zoo. But yeah, I like going to zoos, and then I was just thinking, yeah, Earth is kind of a bit like a zoo, isn't it? For all the human animals that are just kind of roaming around. But anyway,